Hello my dear friends, welcome back to another video. So this is going to be a very big week. We're just a few days away from Star Wars Celebration, and then next week, Andor Season 2, so there's going to be a lot to discuss. Today we have some pretty big news. We just got another teaser for Andor, but the biggest update for the show comes from Stellan Skarsgård. In a brand new interview, he talks about what we can expect for Luthen, and he kind of implies that Luthen might die. He uses a line from his famous monologue to describe what might happen. Luthen has to burn his future.
I burn my decency for someone else's future.
And the reason for this, he says, is because Luthen is going to face a very tough choice. There are things he has to do, even if he doesn't want to. And it sounds like he's about to mess up. I've already opined I think it has to do with the Gorman massacre. But Stellan Skarsgård now says his public persona is about to be found out. I think the Empire discovers who is behind the Axis cell. And because Tony Gilroy said who Luthen was before the war is important, his backstory is going to be crucial. The Empire is closing in, he says. This is very significant, because it might suggest Luthen is about to go public. And when he does, he won't have the luck of Mon Mothma. He might not escape. And for all we know, Saw Gerrera sells him out. But the brand new interview with Stellan Skarsgård gives us some huge reveals. He goes on to say this: I don't see anybody as a hero because I know people are flawed. But Luthen is a very pragmatic man, and he has to do what he has to do, which is to prepare for revolution. He has to make some decisions that he doesn't like, but that are brutal. And I'm sure he wished he could not make those decisions, but he has to. So those are some Andor updates, but now on to Ahsoka Season 2. We have a new tidbit about Shin Hati, one of the most important characters in this upcoming season. And I know I've made a lot of videos about her, but this one is different. This is our first real clue about where she's going in Season 2, and it debunks a couple of interesting theories. All eyes are going to be on Baylan, Rory McCann, and if he's going to live up to the standard of Ray Stevenson. Baylan is a very integral part, but we can't forget Shin. I think she's on a treacherous road. And did you know Lucasfilm just revealed a bit of a tease about what she's going to do in Season 2? In the updated Star Wars Women of the Galaxy, they just alluded to Shin's impulsiveness and challenging scenarios she's about to face without Baylan. Here is the paragraph. Shin teams up with roving bandits on Peridea and resumes a hunt for Sabine and Ezra. She doesn't know Ezra made it home. Without Baylan to temper it, Shin's impulsiveness could lead to challenging scenarios on the far-flung planet. Now here's the thing, we already know most of this. They are to some extent summarizing what took place in the final 2 episodes of the first season, but they're hinting at recklessness that is about to come. So this seems to be going against many fan theories that she's going to join Ahsoka and Sabine. She turned down Ahsoka's offer the first time, but I think there's a very good chance, as a Roken Jedi now without a master, she might go crazy on Peridea, she might go wild, and lean even further into the dark side. Without Baylan, she seems very insecure, very anxious, and afraid. We don't know the full extent of the Force entities impacting Peridea, so we don't know if Shin plays into the Mortis stuff. We also have to wonder who the bandits really are. They seem to be native, but do they have a link to the ancient Dathomirians who are there? Do they serve a kind of spiritual role? Are they guardians or protectors? And now that they've embraced Shin as their leader, has she inadvertently become entwined with their theology, their rituals, and their traditions? Is she gonna combine what Baylan taught her with knowledge of the Zepho, or the ancient Dathomirians, or whatever else the bandits hold sacred? Shin might change. Both cultures offer unique spiritual and mystical traditions that diverge from typical Jedi or Sith, and Shin is the perfect embodiment of that. At this stage, we don't fully understand the connection between the Zephonians, the Ones, the Witches, and Peridea. We don't know the full significance of the Second Galaxy. That's something Dave Filoni's gonna explain in Season 2. If she's going to be taught the customs of the bandits, maybe she thinks she's been chosen to inherit an ancient authority position. If Peridea is the domain of Abeloth, maybe she possesses her, and Shin becomes the physical manifestation of the mother. And here's something I was thinking. The bandits are often seen as a wasted opportunity. I just think we have to be a bit patient with Ahsoka. I imagine Season 2 is going to split its attention between Ezra in the known galaxy and Ahsoka, Sabine, Shin and Baylan in Peridea, but with more focus on the latter. And if this is the case, I think we'll learn more about how the bandits got there, how long they've been there, and their relationship to the ancient spiritual groups. Andor Season 2 I think is doing something very similar with the tribes that were on Yavin 4 before the rebellion got there. The Massassi warriors were once enslaved by the Sith, and they lived in tribes and were hostile to outsiders. I think they're the ones we see in the Andor Season 2 trailer taking Cassian in as hostage. And since they also had a relationship with an ancient Force group, it could be similar with the bandits. And so Shin assuming leadership over them, her igniting her lightsaber, she might become entwined with their customs, their beliefs. And I have to say the way she's been written is rather genius, because she didn't have the rigid beliefs of the Jedi Order to begin with. She was Orokin, she learned in the wilderness, and this means she's more susceptible to other ideas. In many ways she's still very malleable, and that's going to be fascinating to see how much she changes, how much she grows. And to this end, I hope they give her a badass new look. No more Padawan braid. What if she's given bandit-like armor herself, and she becomes this unstoppable, untamed menace? I would love to see that. And this goes back to a comparison a few fans made during the first season, that Shin's arc mirrors the one of Darth Maul. After being abandoned by his master, Palpatine, he falls into madness and vengeance after being discarded and chucked away. He becomes his own boss, and master to Savage Opress. Maul took what he learned from the Sith and merged it with his own egotistical agency and convictions. I can envision Shin doing something similar, how loss of guidance, pain, and abandonment clears the way for a new identity. Could you imagine a final showdown where Shin fights Baylan? She rebuilds her strength, she becomes connected to the bandits, maybe she takes on the mantle of some kind of royalty position, and maybe after really leaning into the dark, she decides to fight her former master. She goes from this diligent apprentice, holding on to Baylan's every word, following a path that is akin to a dark Jedi. The only rules were those that Baylan established, and then suddenly, he parts ways with her, telling her she's on a different path to him. She was left desolate, confused, anxious, and full of fear, the perfect breeding ground for a ferocious, untamed, vengeful Force user. The storytelling choices that parallel Maul must have been a deliberate choice. Her identity throughout Season 1 was bound up in her master's mission, his grand plan. So suddenly, her defining purpose is gone. Baylan trained her in his own words to be something more than a Jedi. She had a zealous sense of destiny. So to be cast aside by the very person who gave her that life means that Shin is reeling. And maybe there's a parallel between Maul uniting the criminal underworld and what Shin is about to do with the bandits. She could be their unifying force. We don't know if the bandits are one of many groups. We know there are the Noti, who are friends with Ahsoka, Huyang, and Sabine, but we don't know if there are other tribes. And a further connection between Maul and Shin, they responded to their abandonment by grasping for a new source of authority, trying to prove they don't need their old masters. After being cast out, Maul went on several endeavors, uniting the criminal syndicates, conquering Mandalore, taking on his brother Savage as an apprentice, and Shin might do something similar. She raised her lightsaber in a show of strength, so she might try to exert dominance, and that could mean seeking real power on Peridea. The big question is she going to allow vengeance to drive her? Or could she eventually have a redemption? I think to some extent what Ahsoka was offering Shin is going to backfire, because she might perceive Ahsoka and Sabine's partnership as a taunt, as if they still have what she's lost. This is going to make Shin very dangerous. Shin could become obsessively fixated on destroying Sabine as a form of retribution and catharsis. It's a very Darth Maul-like psychology. This is going to be wild. The new information in Women of the Galaxy is rather damning. I want to know what you guys think. What do you think's in store for Shin in Ahsoka Season 2? And does this new paragraph excite you? Let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video, my dear friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, the link to my Patreon is down below, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.